This is The Alternative Edge, home of KBVU podcasts.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Joshua Woolcott, and thank you for listening to The Positive Point, a podcast where I try to shed some light into your world. On this week's episode, I decided to bring in one of my friends from up here at college and talk about something that I've recognized I haven't done much with this podcast. Today, I'm going to do something a little different. Instead of focusing on one topic, I'm going to share some positive, happy, feel-good, random act of kindness news stories that I have found over the past couple of weeks. Joshua Woolcott is a good friend of mine who shares a bunch of the same interests as me. We're both digital media majors and have worked together on some productions, as well as bounced ideas off of each other for future projects to tackle. He is a very passionate person who is an inspiration to those around him because of his dedication to what he loves. He has motivated me to dig deep and pursue what I truly want in my life, because it's through those passions that we feel the completeness behind our individual meaning in life. That is what I felt through this podcast. And I have to say, it's partly due to him, because of the perspective he's given me when I needed it the most. While we're talking about news stories today, I think you'll understand what I mean. But I hope you enjoy these stories along with the conversations that come from them, because through these stories, we can see how beautiful the world actually is. So, without further ado, allow yourself to escape from your life for a little while and enjoy this episode with Joshua Woolcott. Here we are, episode 9 of The Positive Point, and I'm excited about this episode because it's something that I'm doing for the first time on this podcast. So thank you for joining me, Joshua.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so like I mentioned in the intro, this episode is going to be a little different. Instead of focusing on one general topic, we're going to be kind of talking about some feel-good stories, bringing some more positivity into people's lives. But up here on campus, it's been really nice to experience this kind of wacky semester with you.
It's had its ups and downs, that's for sure.
Yeah. But especially in the digi department, like we've been powering through with everything. We've still been doing some productions. I know both you and I have been involved, you have been involved with the news productions and stuff. So it's really been cool to kind of just dive head in with this stuff and really get our feet wet. It's
nice that even though everything is different this year than it used to be, we're still able to do things. They haven't just completely shut down the department. We found ways to deal with everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even with me sitting here in the production room having Zoom meetings with people doing interviews for my podcast. But yeah, I think that's kind of the general theme for really what people have been saying about our class and our generation is our way to adapt and push through.
Exactly. Yeah.
You and I, we kind of got connected this past summer with the Facebook page that BV has for the incoming freshmen. Kind of got connected there a little bit. Was really excited to finally meet you up
you
here
too.
On move-in day, and then here we are. We kind of dove headfirst into the digi world and stuff. So.
I mean, as soon as we got here, we just got thrown into it. We started just doing everything that we could.
But that's kind of really how people learn, is just go and just do it. Like, yes, books can teach you some stuff, and I've definitely learned a lot this semester, but that hands-on experience, you learn so much more from that.
I would not know as much as I do now without the hands-on experience that's been available.
Yeah, so I've picked you for a very specific reason for this episode because it is news-based, and like you've said, that hands-on experience, you just went head in with the news department here. Like within, what was it, like your second or third day on campus here, you already made your first interview production with
we had our Digi Day retreat that you and I were a part of, which happened before the majority of students moved on to campus, and we got together and they sent us out to do different projects around campus, and you were more on the audio side of it, if I remember correctly, and I was in the TV studio part of it. That's just kind of how the groups panned out. I was working with them and they just asked me if I wanted to do a news reporter position, and I thought, sure, that sounds fun. Why not? And they're like, all right, here's a microphone. Here's what we want you to say. Just look into the camera and say it. And, now it's November 1st, and I've done like 3 or 4 news stories, and it's been really fun. I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that. And even with you during the productions, either behind the camera or whatnot, kind of the memories made in the studio already over there, it's really been amazing just to kind of actually get into the world we love.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's been great to watch you do it too, because, it's been great to watch you go back and forth from the audio part of this over to the news studio. And you just did camera for the first time a few weeks ago. And it was the first role I did. I did camera for the first production that I worked on as well. And so a few productions down the line, you did it for the first time. And I mean, I really enjoyed camera, and it seems like you did.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the beauty of up here at BV. Since it is a smaller college, you get every part of the media world. Like, I know we haven't done much with the TAC, with the online newspaper and stuff and reporting there, but that's coming. I know the next upcoming semesters I'm going to be doing stuff with that too.
Yeah, we'll be in there at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the thing that I really love about this department is, while it does have the sections of like TV, radio, and then like newspaper and like reporting and stuff, it kind of all gets brought into one, and everyone does everything together.
Yeah. And it's really cool to see everyone kind of overlap in their different specialties all throughout the studios.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just like one big puzzle. We all just fit together and complete everyone.
Exactly.
But to kind of transition into what this episode is all about, the positive news stories, I have a couple here that I have found over the past couple weeks.
All right.
And they really stuck out to me because they really just show the simple beauty of human nature. So this first one here is a post that I saw on Instagram from Good News _movement.
Okay.
And this page, it was like this past week that I discovered them actually. But they post, if not every day, every other day, these really amazing stories of people just doing random acts of kindness.
I love stories like that.
Yeah, exactly. And this one really caught my eye. So I think it's Crosby, North Dakota. This guy, I'm going to butcher his last name, but Lane Unhem, maybe
something
how
like
you
that.
pronounce it. But he suffered a cardiac arrest, and it was right in the heart of the wheat and canola harvest season in that state. And he was a farmer, so kind of a serious situation there, not only because of the cardiac arrest, but because of his harvest. But 60, that's a 6-0 of the neighboring farmers dropped what they were doing. They put their harvest on hold and went and brought their own equipment to Lane's farm, and in 7 hours, those farmers harvested all 1,000 acres of Lane's crop.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, when I first saw that, my mouth dropped because I kind of grew up on a farm with my uncles on their farm and stuff, and when I saw those numbers, my mouth just dropped to the floor.
That's a lot of land, and that's a lot of farms.
Exactly, yeah. But it kind of shows the beauty in like the power of community and how the people around you will support you through your toughest times.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily confined to like bigger cities like New York City or something, I mean, communities can be just like that, like especially here in the Midwest, spread out miles upon miles, all these different farmers. It's just as much of a community as maybe even just college, for example, the people in a dorm hall. It's the same kind of community there.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And that story really stuck out to me because I'm still at a loss for words of it, because it's just beautiful how people dropped what they were doing to help someone out in need.
Yeah, they didn't say, oh, I'll just wait till my harvest is done and then I'll go. They're like, all right, let's go do this harvest and then we'll do ours after.
Exactly, yeah. They got it done in 7 hours too. I mean, I'm still at awe about this story.
I can just imagine the long line of different like equipment vehicles going down a road.
Yep.
It seems like it would never end.
Yep. Yeah, but that one story really stuck out to me, and also this other one that I found on MSN.com. So it's this article about this 5th grader in North Texas. His name is Orion Jean, and he has been making the lives of others his top priority his entire life, and he's only in 5th grade. That's the thing that struck me about this story. But earlier this year, he collected and donated hundreds of toys to hospitalized children in the Dallas area, and has now set his sights on a new goal. So what he's doing right now is he's making it his mission to donate thousands of meals to those in need by Thanksgiving.
Wow.
He's reached out to people for help with donating to this, and when he was asked why he's doing this, he said this: "This has been a rough year for everyone, and now it's more important than ever to show support and love to anyone who needs it."
He sounds like he's a fully grown adult, not a fifth grader.
Exactly. That's the thing that shocks me is he's a fifth grader and he has these big dreams that he's already chasing after. And if a kid can dream up of these goals, why can't we?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, man, that's unbelievable in a good sense, obviously. That's fantastic that he's able to do that at that age.
Yeah, have that like sense of humility and putting all those other people before himself, and the fact that he's not only helping those older than him but also younger than him with the children, donating those toys to the hospitals, getting thousands of meals for people to have a meal on Thanksgiving and everything.
He is wise beyond his years, that's for sure.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just taking the initiative. Just say, I'm gonna go do something. Just take that first step and go out and really do something. Put your mind to it and accomplish it.
Yeah, I said something kind of similar to that to one of my parents recently. They were talking about starting a new thing that they want to do, and I kept kind of bringing up my own thoughts of, well, you could do it at this time or you could do it at this time, and every time that I brought up, they'd say, oh, well, we have this at that time and this at that time. And at one point I said, there's always 1,000 reasons not to do something, but you just have to go for it. Like, you have to, like you said, take that initiative with something. You can sit there and always think about the reasons why you shouldn't do something, but I feel like once you get started on what that is, the reasons for why you shouldn't just feel like they don't really matter as much.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that this fifth grader was able to see that so early on in his life, and he could say, you know, there's that initiative there, and he wanted to take initiative, and yeah, it's working wonderfully.
Yeah, exactly. And another aspect of this story is that others will follow in your footsteps, because he took the initiative to start this plan and start donating these meals. Then he reached out to people asking if they'd be willing to donate. And then he had these hundreds upon thousands of people helping donate to what he was doing. So sometimes it's just taking that step and others will follow your footsteps.
Yeah, 100%.
This next article that I found was published by Tim Fitzsimmons from today.com. And this is a really beautiful story because it shows how even people who have had maybe not the cleanest background still have some purity to their hearts. So Carrie Kelly, she posted this to Facebook, and it was picked up by Tim Fitzsimmons, and he reported on this. So on October 3rd, she was running a marathon in Utah, and about 4 miles into the race, she said that previous injuries began to catch up with her. So she started limping and stuff, and it got to the point where she was just hobbling along. And keep in mind, this is a marathon. 4 miles into it is barely a dent.
Yeah, that's not very far on a marathon.
Yeah. But she heard behind her this noise, and then out of nowhere, this guy named, I'm going to butcher this name too, Fidel Ybarra, he came up and he started running along her side. And he ran with her the rest of the 22 miles.
Wow.
And throughout that whole time, she said that they kept talking to each other, keep giving each other motivation, telling jokes. The really beautiful thing about this that caught my eye was that Fidel is actually a prisoner who was on a work release to work at this marathon. So at this marathon, there was prisoners there working, helping, running the operations. And when he saw her struggling, he instantly went out and helped her along and helped her throughout the rest of the 22 miles of this race. So Carrie shared this on Facebook, and that kind of just caught me because even people who don't seem like they're the best actually do have that purity in their hearts.
Yeah. And I mean, especially with something like that, I mean, running that far is by no means easy. And that guy just, he didn't care how long it was. He said, I know it's 22 miles, but this person needs help and I'm going to help them. It's just nice to see that they put the other person before them and they didn't think like, well, I can't run 22 miles, but otherwise I would help them. But he just hopped right in and started running with her.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to one of my episodes, I think it was 2 episodes ago with my mom and dad, when we talked about Come From Away, how the beauty of human nature, how we help those out when we see that they're in need. And this story definitely proves that again, and it even proves that all people are good. All people have good in them, even if they come from, like I said, somewhat of a sketchy background, like even prisoners and stuff. They do have good in their hearts.
Yeah.
So moving on to this next story, it definitely brought me back to my first episode of this podcast. So it deals with the art of conversation. And if people listening remember back to my first episode, it was the importance of conversation with Sammy. And this article was really beautiful because it was about this guy, Edmund O'Leary, and he posted to Twitter, and he said this: "I'm not okay, feeling rock bottom. Please take a few seconds to say hello if you see this tweet. Thank you." He simply put that out there. And within the matter of a couple minutes and over the next couple hours, thousands of people commented back with words of encouragement, pictures of like the beauty of the world around them. I saw a picture of just a simple butterfly, jokes to make him laugh, some people with some embarrassing moments in their lives. But people from all over the world reached out to him, and the last I checked, there was 76,000 comments on that post.
Wow.
But simply reaching out, having a conversation with someone, even if it's a picture or a sentence or two, really can lift up their spirits, especially in this world that we're living in right now.
Yeah, for sure. Because I know in one of our news productions, we talked about the effect that social isolation can have on your mental health. And so when you were talking about how especially this year it can be affected, it's nice to see that someone who's struggling, like in this article, it's nice to see that people can still come together, even though it's been honestly kind of just a crappy year for people. Yeah. I mean, 2020 has not been, I don't think it's anyone's favorite year.
Nope.
And it's nice to see that people can still come together and help each other and see that other people are struggling and can just help them out with that and put, in a way, that person's needs before their own.
Absolutely, yeah. And that kind of all goes back to what I said with the human nature. I believe that is our basic human nature. When we see someone struggling, we feel like it's our duty to help them out in ways, whatever way it is, even if it's, like I've said multiple times, just holding the door open for someone, or like going out of your way, sending a tweet to someone, sitting down, having a conversation with them. Yeah. It's those simple things like that. And this next story ties into that really well because it's from Barcelona, this 26-year-old Adria Ballester. He goes out and sets up 2 folding chairs and puts a sign on the ground that says free conversations. And all he does is sit there, and anyone who comes up can come up and talk about anything. He said sometimes it's really deep stories, and sometimes he feels like a therapist, and sometimes it's just joking conversations, just lightening the mood and everything. But just being there for someone when they need it most, or just when they don't know they need it, to sit down and have that conversation with them.
Yeah, because you never know if someone's going to need that very badly one day. You know, one of the people that he talks to, you never know if, you know, a conversation like that was exactly what they needed that day because they've been having a rough day or a rough week or month or however long it's been. And you never know the impact that one conversation like that can have with a person.
Yeah, absolutely. I know in my life there's been specific conversations that have really helped me out during moments. There's been times when I've reached out to others when I know they've needed it. So simply just talking. I mean, we can donate money, we can donate time, we can donate materialistic goods, but sometimes just talking is the most powerful thing you can give. Yeah, so those are the couple stories over the past week or so that have really stood out to me. And I know there's a lot of other ones that are out there for people that they can go find when they need that little optimistic boost that they need. I know from the very first story that I mentioned, Good News _movement on Instagram is an amazing page to follow because especially like today, there's been posts that have really stood out to me and given me the kind of inspiration to be the best version of myself. So I think that's how we can wrap this into the present person, with how we can help, how this can relate to people today, is to recognize that things really aren't all that bad. Yeah. Like, yes, there's COVID going on. There seems to be a lot of negative things going on in the world. But really, when you take time to search out those stories, you recognize that there is still good happening in this world around us.
Mm-hmm. There's at the beginning of the quarantine and all of that happened, I don't know if you ever watched it, but John Krasinski actually started his own YouTube channel, and he made a little news show called Some Good News, which is pretty similar to this podcast. It's just more of like a news type thing. And I remember, people were pretty down with COVID all over the country, and that YouTube channel got worldwide attention. It was really great to see someone who you may think wouldn't really care about it because, they're a celebrity, and you'd think they don't have to care about this because they have all the money in the world. But John Krasinski and his wife, Emily Blunt, was also involved. They both saw that it was something that they thought the world needed, and they jumped into action for it, and they did good deeds through it. In one of the episodes, they officiated a wedding. They allowed people to meet their favorite celebrities and just stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. And I fall victim to this too, of thinking, oh, this world's so bad. There's so much bad stuff going on. But really, when I take that time to search out these news stories, I step back and say, okay, hold on here. There's still good people around.
Mm-hmm.
And even recognizing in your own life, there is good people still around you doing good deeds.
There's always going to be good in the world, whether you like it or not.
Absolutely. Yeah, so like with all of my guests, I ask them for their favorite quote. So, what's yours?
So, I look at a lot of positive quotes in my various social media feeds, but one that I just saw a few days ago that I really liked and has stuck in my mind, it said, when you get what you want, that is God directing you. When you don't get what you want, that is when God is protecting you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it helped me put a lot of things in perspective when I've been thinking about things that I've wanted to do recently, and times recently I haven't gotten my way, or times when I have, and not even just in the sense I got here, but I could think back as far as I could in my life and, apply that quote to it and think about that and just see how it goes.
Yeah, I've never heard that quote before, but wow. That one.
That's what I was thinking when I first saw it.
Yeah. Well, Joshua, this has been a joy to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love this show.
Yeah, have someone right next to me finally once again to record. But yeah, it was really fun to have you on. So thank you for coming on and sharing your insight on these stories.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Man, when I found those stories, I was inspired and hope filled my heart. But talking about them gave me a whole new sense of how beautiful the people in this world actually are. So that has to be the positive point of the podcast for this episode. Simply the fact that the world isn't bad. Sure, it may seem that way most of the time because of what the media is reporting on, but if we live off of what the media gives us, then we miss part of the picture. It seems like they're constantly focused on the negative news and report on the dark sides of human nature. But just as every situation has, there's always a bright side. As you have heard throughout this episode, there's countless amounts of people going out of their way to help others and do random acts of kindness. These stories are what give us the motivation to be a better person. Maybe I have inspired people to become a better version of themselves, but I have found that we learn by following examples. Sometimes all we need is the perspective in situations to recognize the good that's around us, whether it's an outcome or a person. I know for a fact that we are constantly surrounded by good. Search out these happy news stories for motivation, or focus your perspective on others around you and recognize how beautiful the people of this world actually are. There's more good than you realize in this world, and searching out these stories gives us the motivation to go out of our way for others. Sometimes it may be hard to recognize the good in people around you or find these stories, but what's something worth doing if it's easy to accomplish? Push yourself to grow and gain the perspective you need in tough situations. Push yourself to be the good in the world. That's what I challenge you to do this week. Search out some of these positive news stories and discover how much good there is all around us. That will help you gain this new perspective on the world in recognizing that the world's not coming to an end, it's entering a new chapter. People are stepping up to the plate and letting the best versions of themselves shine. So I challenge you to start the journey in doing the same. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and as always, feel free to DM me on Twitter at thepositivepoi2. That's the positive POI 2, or Instagram at thepositivepoint_podcast, or send an email to thepositivepointpodcast@gmail.com to share a random act of kindness or uplifting deed that you did for someone else, or they did for you. Or maybe it's something you saw someone else do for another person. Reach out to me and share the story. Who knows? Maybe you will be the next positive point of the podcast. Until next time, this is Joshua Woolcott, and remember, keep it positive.